Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are focusing on a single date, and it's one that's going to be in history books for a very long time, June 29th, 2026.
Yeah.
If you follow the British monarchy, and let's be honest, even if you try to avoid it, you couldn't escape this. This date marks the unthinkable decision.
It really is the day the whole will they, won't they saga finally ended. But not in the way anyone, not even the most seasoned royal watchers, expected.
Exactly. We're looking at the moment Prince Harry's status within the royal family was permanently, and I mean permanently, codified. But we aren't just looking at the press release. We have a massive stack of documents here that reconstruct the whole secret timeline.
Yeah, we're talking about private letters from Highgrove, secret video calls, the stuff that was definitely not on the court circular.
And a tea summit that essentially reshaped the monarchy for the next 50 years.
It's a fascinating case study in crisis management, and honestly, it's a study in family dynamics that just happens to play out on a global stage. What you have here is the difference between family as a feeling and the firm as, a business.
The visual that sticks with me, and the one we really need to unpack today, is the announcement itself. You have Prince William and Princess Anne, side by side.
Not King Charles.
Not King Charles. Yeah. William is Aunt Anne. That image alone felt like a statement.
That image is the key to the whole strategy.
Yeah.
But before we get to why Anne was standing there and why Charles wasn't, we have to answer the core question our listeners are asking. How did we get here?
Yeah.
How do you go from the Fab Four optimism of 2018 to a formal, almost legalistic restructuring of a brother's existence in 2026?
It feels like a tragedy in slow motion, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Let's rewind a bit, because you can't understand the solution without understanding the injury. Let's go back to May 2018.
Gosh, it feels like a lifetime ago.
It really does. You had the wedding at Windsor, nearly 2 billion people watching.
Right.
We had this whole narrative of the Fab Four, William, Kate, Harry, and Meghan. It was supposed to be this, injection of fresh energy.
And the press loved it. The public loved it. That Australia tour right after the wedding was a massive success.
Oh, huge.
Meghan was seen as this modernizing, energetic force. The approval ratings were through the roof. But the sources we're looking at, especially the ones analyzing Harry's memoir, show the foundation was cracked before the wedding bells even rang.
Right. Spare is just crucial context here. When that book came out, it revealed this wasn't just press invention. You had the story about William warning Harry he was moving too fast.
And then the physical altercation Harry described,
Yeah.
that was, I think, a turning point for the public.
Yeah.
The description of the broken dog bowl, the ripped necklace, it just shattered the myth of the brotherly bond.
It turned them from allies into rivals in the public imagination.
Totally. And then you add the tensions with Kate over the bridesmaid dresses and the apology flowers.
Which, to a normal person, sounds like petty domestic stuff. Who made who cry? But in an institution where hierarchy is the oxygen they breathe.
They weren't small squabbles, no. They were seismic. They were challenges to the pecking order.
Right. You have to remember, in this family, who apologizes to whom is a matter of state protocol as much as it is manners. And that escalation led directly to Megxit in January 2020.
And I think it's important to define that clearly. That was the moment they stepped back, lost the HRH titles, and critically
lost their state-funded security.
That security point is the thread that just runs through this whole story. It's always about safety and who pays for it.
It is. Then came the Oprah interview in 2021. The accusations of racism, discussions of suicidal thoughts. I mean, that was the nuclear option.
It really was.
But, and this is the part people often skip over, if you look at the period between 2024 and 2025, things got weirdly quiet. We call it the thaw and freeze.
I remember that so clearly. King Charles was diagnosed with cancer in February 2024. Harry flew over immediately.
And everyone thought, okay, this is it.
Health scares bring families together. This is the reconciliation.
And they did have a brief private talk. It was the first time they'd spoken face-to-face in years, but it didn't fix the structural issues. It was a father and son moment, not a king and duke moment.
Exactly. While that was happening, his Invictus games were flourishing, and Meghan's lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard, was skyrocketing in value. By 2026, they were commercially very powerful.
So you had this commercially successful couple in California and a king recovering from cancer in London. Public sentiment was shifting then, wasn't it?
Drastically. By 2025, our data shows 58% of the British public still supported the monarchy, which is solid. but a massive 45% said they wanted reconciliation.
Oh.
The public was suffering from feud fatigue.
Feud fatigue. That's a great term. People were just tired of the soap opera. They wanted the season finale.
They wanted to know, are they in or are they out?
Exactly. And that brings us to the secret timeline. June 2026. The week that changed everything.
The king was recovering, he was back to work, but then rumors started swirling about a sequel to Spare.
The dreaded sequel. That must have terrified the palace.
It did. The palace realized they couldn't just ignore the Sussexes anymore. Passive silence just wasn't working. They needed a permanent solution.
So let's walk through this timeline day by day, because this is the stuff you don't see on the news. It starts June 20, 2026. Who makes the first move?
King Charles. He's at Highgrove, his country estate, and he writes personal letters to Harry in Montecito.
Personal letters. Do we know the tone? Was it an angry father laying down the law?
Quite the opposite, according to the breakdown we have. It was a plea. It was emotional. He essentially told Harry that for the sake of the next generation, meaning Archie, Lilibet, George, Charlotte, Louis, they needed to resolve this limbo.
So he frames it around the kids.
Yes. He suggested a review of Harry's status. Not a punishment, but a review. He wanted closure.
Okay, so Charles opens the door with a soft touch. But he doesn't walk through it alone. 2 days later, June 22nd, the strategy shifts. Enter Princess Anne.
This is pivotal. Princess Anne takes charge. She's often called the fixer.
The pragmatist.
The one who gets things done without fanfare. She set up a private video call with Prince William. Kate apparently made a brief appearance, but the real meeting was Anne and William.
And this wasn't just a chat. This was a strategy session. What were the options on the table?
It was binary. They had two very distinct paths. On one side, you had the nuclear option, revoke the Sussex titles completely,
Wow.
strip them of everything, make them Mr. and Mrs. Mountbatten-Windsor. There were people in Parliament pushing for this.
And the other option?
Collaboration, a half-in model where they merged charity efforts, Invictus joining forces with William's mental health initiative.
A huge olive branch.
A huge olive branch. A way to bring Harry back into the fold without him being a working royal.
That sounds like what Harry wanted back in 2020, the Sandringham Agreement he proposed. So why didn't they go for that?
Voices of caution. Specifically, Edward and Sophie, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, they weighed in from Bagshot Park. Their argument was that the half-in, half-out model failed because it blurred the lines. You can't sell jam one day and represent the king the next. It confuses the brand.
That makes sense. If you're wearing the crown's crest, you can't be signing Netflix deals. So the tension is building. And of course, nothing stays secret. June 24th.
The Times runs a front-page story. Headline: Divided Loyalties. It leaked that these talks were happening.
And the internet did what the internet does.
Complete meltdown. Hashtag Harry Returns started trending globally. It was a social media firestorm. This created a pressure cooker. The palace realized they needed a decision immediately.
Which leads to the Tea Summit, June 27th.
It sounds so civilized, doesn't it? The Tea Summit. But the guest list tells you everything. Buckingham Palace. William, Anne, Charles, and Camilla. That's it.
Who wasn't there is just as important.
Exactly. The Yorks were absent. The Edinburghs were absent. They wanted a boardroom decision, not a family therapy session. They needed to cut through the noise.
And that evening, Charles makes the call.
He calls Harry. He informs him of the verdict. And then 2 days later, June 29th, the world finds out.
Let's talk about that announcement. The staging was so specific. Prince William, 43 years old, future king. Princess Anne, 75, the hardest working royal, standing outside Kensington Palace.
They didn't just drop a PDF on Twitter. They stood there physically. William in a navy suit, Anne in a tailored coat. It projected stability and unity.
The message was, the king is the head, but we are the hands.
Precisely. It showed the future king and the most experienced senior royal were locked in lockstep.
Okay, so they read the statement. Let's break down the verdict. What exactly did they decide?
The headline is, Harry will not resume working royal duties. That door is nailed shut. No ribbon cuttings, no patronages for the crown.
But, and this is the unthinkable part, he retains his titles.
Yes, he stays the Duke of Sussex and the Earl of Dumbarton. And this is crucial. He keeps his place in the line of succession.
I have to play devil's advocate here. Isn't that having your cake and eating it too? He keeps the fancy titles but does none of the work. How is that a win for the monarchy?
It's a very calculated compromise. The statement emphasized that security and finances must align with non-working members, meaning Harry pays for himself, he gets the title, but zero state support. No taxpayer money for security, no sovereign grant.
Right.
William's words were very specific. This is not about punishment or exclusion, it's about clear boundaries.
And Anne added a personal touch, didn't she?
She did. She added that the king sends his love. It was a velvet hammer. Soft words, hard reality.
So why do analysts call this mercy?
Because the alternative was stripping the titles. By letting him keep them, they're acknowledging his history. They're saying, you are born of this blood. We aren't erasing you.
It prevents him from becoming a total martyr.
Exactly. If they strip the titles, he's the victim of a cruel institution. By leaving them, they look benevolent.
But it's also finality.
Absolutely. It kills the speculation. No more, will he come back for Christmas? Or will he do a tour? The answer is no. He is out of the firm. He is a private citizen with a title.
Let's talk about how the world reacted. Because Emily Maitlis at the BBC had a great phrase for it.
A balanced blow. She called it unthinkable mercy. It hurts, but it's fair.
And the newspapers.
The Daily Mail went with Wills and Anne draw the line. Very supportive. The Times praised it as a new strategic approach, seeing it as modernizing the family.
But the public is never that unified. The polling data you shared is fascinating.
It really highlights the divide. YouGov polls showed about 45% of people felt a sense of shock, but admitted it was fair. But 35% were outraged. They felt it was exclusionary.
And then you have the focus groups. The moms in Bristol versus the dads in Manchester.
This was a recurring theme. You had mothers in Bristol feeling upset about the no duties line. They saw a family rejecting a son.
There's an emotional reaction.
Totally. How can you be so cold? But then you had the dads in Manchester debating the titles, saying, if he's not working, why does he get to be a duke? Strip him of the lot.
It shows that people really project their own family dynamics onto the royals.
Always. You saw it at Kensington Palace. Crowds with signs saying, Harry's heart is royal, right next to people chanting family first.
Even the celebrities couldn't help themselves.
David Beckham called for unity. Elton John posted about family ties. And Piers Morgan,
Well,
I can guess, called it a genius move.
of course he did. But what about the most important reaction? From Montecito.
Silence at first, but the Archwell website crashed from all the traffic. People were just refreshing, waiting.
And when it came,
It was subtle. An insider hinted they were grateful for the acknowledgement and wanted to continue the conversation.
continue the conversation. That sounds like code for we aren't done yet.
It certainly implies they see this as a negotiation, whereas the palace sees it as a ruling.
So, looking ahead, what does 2027 look like for Harry? He's basically a freelance duke.
That's exactly what he is, and he faces a massive identity crisis. He's no longer a working royal, but by keeping the titles, he isn't just another celebrity. He still has that royal dust.
But the bills are real.
The financial reality is the biggest pressure point. He's been paying for his own security since 2020. That bill is in the millions. He has to generate huge revenue just to stay safe.
They have money coming in, though. Archwell is valued at, what, $150 million? Meghan's Netflix series is projected to do huge numbers.
They are commercially successful, absolutely. But here's the danger for the palace. By letting him keep the titles, but forcing him to earn, have they legitimized a competing brand?
The royal rival court.
Exactly. If Harry feels rejected or if the money dries up, there's always the threat of the sequel to Spare in 2027.
And that's the leverage.
It is. A commercially viable alternative royal court in America, fully titled, but with no loyalty to the palace.
What about the monarchy back home? Without Harry, the bench is looking pretty thin.
It's leaner. This is Charles's vision of a modern and efficient family realized. You have William stepping up alongside a recovering Kate. Anne's visibility has increased even more.
But are there risks to being too lean?
Massive risks. Look at the Commonwealth. Places like Canada, Australia. Harry was the charismatic one. Without him, simply being dutiful might not be enough. Republicanism might grow because the royal family feels too distant, too small.
So, in summary, this decision was a trade-off. They traded short-term drama for long-term diplomacy.
That's the perfect way to put it. They preserved the history, the titles, but they protected the institution with hard boundaries. They stopped the bleeding, but they might have created a new kind of scar.
It's a fascinating gamble. But I want to leave the listener with a thought. Does retaining the titles actually solve the problem of divided loyalties?
Or does it just validate the division?
Right. Does it simply create a fully authorized, commercially active royal rival across the ocean? Is this unthinkable decision the end of the rift or just the beginning of a Cold War?
A Cold War where both sides have titles. That is a dangerous place to be.
That is the question we'll be watching as 2027 unfolds. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one.